Going on, everybody? Sean Birdsong here, Sharon Letterlawn. Welcome to another edition of Beyond the Court. Today we got a special guest with us, former pro player, European collegiate player, and owner of Strength in Motion, Mr. Gervin, George Gervin Jr. What's going on, man?
Oh, pleasure, Sean. Pleasure, Sharon. Thank y'all for having me. Thank y'all for having me.
So, I talked to you a few weeks back. I appreciate you, getting on the podcast, and you're back in the States. What is that like? I want to ask you, I thought about this when I was first talking to you with COVID, and then you just now coming back to the States. What has that been like for you to be being overseas, of course, coaching, doing your business and all that. Now you're back in the States. I think you've been here maybe a few weeks. What's the environment like for you right now?
Oh man, it's crazy, man. Actually, man, I'm actually happy to be home, thrilled. I took a year off, so I actually stayed in Stockholm, Sweden, and so that's where I'm currently living. So I actually stayed in Sweden pretty much the whole year last year. So it was tough not being home. It was tough, being away from my family. But for us, man, I'm just happy to be home now. So just it's exciting for me. I get to come home to see to see the guys, the young guys that we got coming up, see some of my old guys, that have been with me. And so for me, it's just an exciting time. I got a chance to miss all the craziness. I was in Sweden, man. So everything was pretty peaceful and mild as far as how things were going, and we didn't really shut down and everything. So I'm just glad I kind of missed all that stuff, man, coming home, and I'm kind of coming back where everything is coming back to normal again. So I'm really happy about that.
Right. Now, it's interesting you say that because, you being overseas, and I got friends and things overseas, and they said the same thing as like they were still, kind of like going through the day. They really didn't skip a beat. How was that for you with you having family over here on a day-to-day? Like you keep in contact with them over here, even though you guys were still able to do things. What was it kind of like mindset wise, for your family over here when you were talking to them?
It was tough, man. I mean, they were concerned. There was a lot of folks around them getting sick, and there was a lot of folks, just it was a lot of things happening. And so for me, I was just kind of worried about them and their well-being. And so but overall, we kept in contact every day. So my parents and my family and all them, man, they're really strong people. My dad he was isolated. He lives on 30 acres, so him and mom were pretty isolated for everything. So they didn't need anything, and they didn't leave the house unless they really needed to. And so but it was just it was scary times. But overall, I'm just happy. I got a chance to finally get home. Get a chance to I got a chance to hug my mom and dad when I got here physically, and so it was great, man. Just being home. Just going to eat the Mexican food. I live in Texas, man. So we're really big on our Mexican food out here, man. So I've been pretty much eating it every day since I've been here. My mom told me I look really, really skinny, and that's basically I just don't eat a lot of fried stuff. So my mom's been stuffing me since I've been here. I've been trying to, just not to make her disappointed and try to put some weight on while I'm here and just show her that I'm eating. But overall, man, it's just great, man. Just like I said at the beginning, it's just good to be home. I'm just excited. I'll be here until September, and so I'm trying, just being away and seeing America, seeing home from the outside perspective. It made me really, now when I come home, I really, put things, strategically. Now I know what's kind of really what's important. I put those things type first. So it brings a lot of perspective being away from home, looking at home from the outside, and it kind of teaches you how to deal with it in a real linear way where I'm, just I can do the things that I need to do, see the people I need to see, and kind of do it like that. So,
and I think, like you're saying, Sweden is probably was lower because of the cold, right?
Correct.
So the northern countries, pretty resilient people. I have friends over in
Yeah.
Sweden.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah,
Yeah, they don't miss a beat. They don't miss a beat.
you
So
know, we get it
yeah.
cold and but that's good to know. And I've had friends overseas in Sweden and Europe and lot, and I'm originally from the islands, Trinidad. So
Okay.
it's always very interesting to see America when you leave and seeing how it's coming here and
Yeah.
and the world perspective. And I think during COVID, it just kind of opened up the Zoom and it got everybody engaged. And
Yes.
everybody was engaged and like, oh, is that really happening? Oh, we don't do that here. How does that happen? How did you guys get to that point?
Exactly.
Because there was very filtered in social media. It
Yes.
was very,
That's true.
everybody was looking at social media and think everybody lived like all the social media posers, and it's like, no.
Yeah, and it's like, and it's hard to really tell by all the things that's going on and stuff. So, just being on the ground and, you just never really know, especially listening to social media and things that's going on Facebook and things. But, for us, it was just about, being safe, and I was in a great country. I can't complain about, how the country treated everything and how my kids weren't rattled through the whole situation. They didn't even have to wear masks. So we had to wear masks on the plane ride over here, man. And that was a struggle for them because it was exciting. It was exciting for like the first hour. They couldn't wait till we put their masks. We got them little pink masks and everything. And then after about an hour or so, they were taking it down. And so it was a change for us. So, but we got through it. It was a 12-hour plane ride, but we got through it. And, we just happened to be home.
Right. Now, you mentioned earlier, your dad, you are the son of, Hall of Famer, George Gervin. And I want to take it back a little bit. What was your, upbringing like? I know you're involved in a lot of projects. You're involved with coaching, playing. You're involved with Ice Cube's Big Three. I want to take it back to when you were growing up, in the Gervin household. What was that like for you and your family? Just growing up, and was obviously, your dad playing professional basketball. Was that probably why you want to get into basketball, or is it kind of like, something that you just gravitated to, just wanted to try out? What was that like for you growing up?
Oh man, for me growing up, it was amazing. I express to kids all the time. I was in a real unique situation. You know how it is, and so I got a chance to really get to see players live and in person, and George Gervin was just dad to me growing up. I heard everybody. I heard all the talk, but I couldn't look past dad. But when I went to practice, I used to like go to practice with him and go to practice. I wanted to emulate dad, man. I wanted, so I went in there, wore the high socks. He used to wear the silver and black socks that the Spurs had on. I had to have a pair, and and so for me is, just watching my dad, kind of, go watch him doing practices, and then his brothers all played, and so and then my mom's brothers played. They weren't really that good, as far as on the elite level, but they could play, playground and all that stuff. And, they can really handle themselves on the playground. So for me, it was just, I kind of grew up in a basketball household. So it was either, me gravitate toward it or just really kind of push it away. But for me, it was just, I fell in love with it from the beginning. And so, I when I was younger, man, my feet was really, really big. So like my feet grew. So I just knew I was going to be at least 6'7", 6'6". So I was looking forward to it. But, as time went on and stuff, I wasn't, growing as fast as I thought it was. And my dad hit a late growth spurt. So I was figuring, it'll come later. But, until then, I really worked on my ball handling a lot. And that was a big thing. I had an uncle on my mom's side. His name was Timmy. And, he was a big Isaiah Thomas fan. And, they're all my family's from Detroit. And so, he would, try to handle the ball like Isaiah. And then he would always give me, little pointers, man. Like, man, you should be going around the block dribbling with your offhand. And, he would always tell me things. And he used to take me to the gym a lot when I was younger. And, it just got me into my ball handling a lot. And so then I had a cousin on my mom's side that really could handle the ball that ended up playing Division I. And they were a little older than me. And so, I wanted to keep up with my cousin and things like that. But at the same time, I'm still going to practice with my dad. I'm still getting opportunities to, go on those Nike trips when we were younger. Used to go to Hawaii and things like that. I still remember them, and being with Big Moses Malone and all those fellas, man. Yeah, man. Bless his soul, man. And so, I remember those times still, and it was, I was young when those happened, but those are the parts and those are the times that really stuck with me. And, just made me want to be, grow up and be a ball player. And so, I did. I didn't play organized until I got to high school, though. Okay. So I played, growing up, played with my cousins, played with my family members, but my mom really didn't take to middle school basketball. And now looking back at it, I see why, because it was the football coaches, they were all coaching it and stuff like that. So it wasn't really anything serious. So of course I wanted to play at the time, but she just thought it would be a better idea that I wouldn't. It was just a waste of time. So I still play. And then, and also, I dipped into other sports. So, my dad never, ever pushed me to play the game basketball. So, he always encouraged me to try anything else. So, I tried tennis. I was a big tennis fan when I was younger. So if I didn't play basketball, I probably would have been playing tennis. And so I did that. I did all the skateboarding and the BMX stuff. So, I tried a lot of different things growing up. So I didn't just, specialize at a young age at basketball. And so it was finally when I got to high school, I decided that I wanted to play basketball for real. And, I approached my dad, told my mom, dad, I really wanted to play and things. And so, my dad already, he pulled me aside and told me, he's all right, we really want to do this. There's only one way to do this. And he was, and so I was like, all right, Dad, so what do you want me to do? And he was like, man, you've got to get up 500 to 600 shots a day. Right. And so I was like, for real? He was like, yeah, if you really want to do this, you got to get 500 to 600 shots a day.
Right.
And so, looking back at it, it was like, whoa. But now and stuff, it was just, it was just a part of what we did. And so it became what we did every day, and we did it, he used to take me to the gym and we do it until I got old enough to drive. And then by the time my senior year in high school, I was driving, I was just meeting him there. And so I got a chance to meet him there. And, it was just me, him, and his boy. And so, he would just talk to me. His boy would pass to me. And I would get my 500 up daily. And so, for me, it was just something that became automatic after a while. And in high school, and it benefited. So I got a chance to become, All-American in high school. I got a chance to, get invited to the Nike 100. That was, for me, I ain't never really been outside Texas playing when I was, at that time. And so I didn't really go to none of the AAU tournaments and stuff. I would play locally, but I always had to go to summer school. My mom was always big on my education. So I always had to go to summer school and do summer school. So I always missed the national tournaments. And so all my boys I would see the videotapes of it. And then I would hear about all these players, Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce, Vince Carter. Those are all in my era. And so I would hear about him and I would kind of see him on video and stuff like that. And it would burn at me. I couldn't go. And so finally, my junior summer, my mom granted me, I got invited to the Nike Top 100 in Chicago. And so my mom was like, all right, you can go to that. But I had to make it up later on with summer school. So I did. But I actually had a chance to go out there. I had a great time. I was in awe by the players that were there. It was, Paul Pierce, those guys, Kevin Garnett, Ronnie Fields, it was some serious ball. Shea Cotton, all those guys and stuff, man. A lot of people forgotten, but that was like serious ball players then. And those guys had national notoriety. I was a kid from Texas. Of course, I was Iceman's son, so everybody look at him, man. That's Ice's son. And so I had to really go out there and prove myself. I went out there and spent a week out there, and I thought I proved myself, and then Coach Steve Smith from Oak Hill Academy called me when I got home and asked me to come to Oak Hill, and I signed everything, got my stuff ready, and my high school coach, I remember playing it. I wanted to go to a football game before I left and see, to say bye to everybody. Mm-hmm. And I went to the football game, and man, the whole crowd and my coach, everybody cried, and man, they made this whole spectacle. So I ended up changing my mind. I don't know, looking back at it, I don't know if that was the greatest decision, but I ended up changing my mind and staying. And I stayed and finished my senior year. I was signed, sealed, delivered to go to Oak Hill Academy. And then I decided to change my mind and stayed home. And ended up having, a good senior season. I ended up falling short on my SAT scores. So, I had a lot of schools on me. And then, once they found out you wasn't making it, and then it was just mainly junior colleges. And I had two Division I schools that was going to prop me. And it was Cincinnati and Arizona State. And so I took my visits to Cincinnati and Arizona State. And Cincinnati, just coming from Texas, Cincinnati was a little different for me. It was cold. It was cold. It was just the atmosphere was a little different, man. I ain't gonna say real ghetto, but it was something I really wasn't used to.
Right.
And so I got a little nervous. I was there for a couple of days, and then Coach Huggins had me lifting weights on my visit. So, they was really big on that, lifting weights and things. And so that wasn't really my thing. And they had me there. They scared me to death. And so my next visit was Arizona State. And so I went to Arizona State. The sun was shining. They was out there, they had the girls out front playing volleyball. And they had all kind of palm trees. It was a different scene. So I fell for it. And I ended up going to Arizona State. And so I actually sat out a year at Arizona State. And then I played the following year. And then our coach, which was Bill Frieder at the time, he got replaced by Coach Newman. And I ended up, I figured I wanted to go a little closer to home. And so I went on ahead and I came back to, actually I went to Houston and I went to San Jacinto Junior College. And so I had a year at San Jacinto Junior College. They was coming off just losing the national championship. So the team was already loaded when I got there. I mean, we had some players when I got there. And so, I was just really wanting to come home and just try to fit in. I didn't want to come in and try to take over anything. And so I remember I drove up to the school. It's different. I'm coming from D1. I'm going to junior college. So it was like I felt like I was going to high school. And so I pulled up to the school and we were in like a little classroom where coach wanted to meet all the players. And I was late because I couldn't find the school. And so I finally got there. So I walk in the classroom and, excuse me, hey, fellas, what's going on? And I just remember everybody was looking at me like, and I was like, okay, what did I do? And, it was pure competition when you get to junior college. So, it kept me on my toes, and those guys were really good players. So, I had to kind of earn my way. Coach told me he wasn't going to give me anything. And, a lot of those guys knew I came from Division I, and that's where those guys were trying to go. So it was competition, which was great, for the team. We ended up really loving each other by the season's end. We had some great battles. Unfortunately, we fell short of the national championship that year, and then Clyde got the job at the University of Houston, and most of my guys in junior college were pretty much signed and knew where they were going. So I was like, me and two other guys were undecided, and so I finally, Clyde came and reached out and he got that job. And so I just drove down the street. It was 30 minutes down the street. So I drove down the street and went down there to visit Clyde. And, for me, it was just an honor for, Clyde to hit me up and want me to come down. And so I went down there. He showed me the facilities and everything. He was like, ball's going to be in your hands, son. And I was like, that's all you got to say. And so, it was done deal. I didn't even consider anything else after that. And it was in a conference. We were in Conference USA, which was, had Louisville, Cincinnati, Paul. They had some really good schools in there and stuff. So for me, that was it. And so I signed and went to Houston. That first year, everybody was super duper excited because Clyde, he was fresh from playing for the Rockets. He just got there. So, the atmosphere was electric just, when we started the season. And, I vibed off of it. I enjoyed it. Clyde brought everybody back. Keem came back. Big E came back. Guy V. Lewis came back, before he passed and things. So, Clyde brought everybody out. So for me, that was just gave me chills. And, and then Houston, it was where most of the NBA players lived in the summer. And so, you had all your favorite ball players, your Sam Cassell, Nick Van Exel, and Shaq had a place out there. You had Sean Kemp. And so, you had so many guys out there that had a place to run. It's just, top notch. And so I love the whole atmosphere. And so Big Moses Malone, before he passed and stuff, Big Moses, when he was there, he brought me in. And, he said, G, you with me. And so, I got a chance to play on the Pro-Am teams. I got a chance to get on the floor with the Fundy. I got a chance to do a whole lot of things because Big Mo, he had a pass for me. But, I felt like I held my own. It made me a better ball player. I got a chance to play against Sam and Nick Van and those guys and stuff on a daily basis. So it just sharpened my game. So for me, it helped me translate when I got to college. And, I ended up becoming that first year I led the conference in scoring and assists and 3-point percentage. And then my second year, I ended up doing the same. And so, I felt like I had a successful college career. Clyde was a big supporter of me. He really pushed me, really challenged me. I learned a lot from him, on and off the court, just asking him questions on the plane or things like that. And so for me, I just really wanted to vibe off, his professionalism, man, because, he was still smooth. He was just out the NBA. I used to watch him in the airport, just see where he'd go and stuff. He didn't never know, but I was, I studied guys and stuff. So, and just kind of backtracking, I got a chance when my dad finished his NBA career with the Bulls. I got a chance to hang out with Michael Jordan because Michael Jordan got hurt and he broke his foot. And so they brought my dad in to Chicago. And so, and then when I got to Houston, when Mike was retiring, he invited me to come play in this celebrity game. And, and so I got a chance to do that, man. So I had a chance to kind of learn from some guys, that, not everybody was going to get a chance to learn off of. And so, I kind of use that now and use that knowledge that I absorbed from, Clyde, Big Moses, Calvin Murphy, all those guys were around, man. And I try to use all that wisdom and, and try to bottle up and try to use it for the next generation and kind of let them guys know, that, this is not stuff this is stuff that I've learned from some of these pros, man, some of these guys that have had great careers and just great people. And, and so, I try to use all the stuff that I've learned coming up and try to, put forth to it now as a man.
I found that interesting because you said in the beginning of the conversation that your dad never pushed you. I think the media or people who are not within, what I love is that even Sean's dad, saying you don't have to play basketball. We interviewed Jeffrey, MJ's son, older son, and he played, college ball at UCF where my daughters went to because I was in Orlando, and him and Marcus. And it was funny when Jeffrey said, he goes, no, my dad never pushed me. Actually, did he like football? He liked football better, and then he got back into it. And, for the audience and people looking in, they'll think, oh, well, you play basketball, you're going to have your son. It's almost like the family business.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
It's interesting that it's great that the parents was more important, your mom and dad, then you find your way, just because your dad did something, you don't have to do it.
Yes, correct. And I, because I have a brother and a sister, and they never played. And, they're in health management and one's a massage therapist. So, my brother, he played with me growing up, but they never got into pretty much any sports. And because, we were never pushed to really do it. It was just, they gave us the opportunity to do what we wanted to do. And it was just, I gravitated and wanted to hoop. I knew I wanted to first time I went to practice.
Right. Now it's funny, Sharon mentioned, Jeffrey, and I always say, gee, we're in a unique situation. I know a lot of us, I guess you'd call us kids, from that first generation, the mentality, thought, certain things, especially when you're involved in basketball. I wanted to ask you, what was that like for you to go to Houston? You were very highly touted out of high school. You go to Houston and you team up also with, Moses Malone Jr. And you're playing for Clyde. And then you mentioned you got Calvin, you got Moses, you got all these people coming to the games. Mentality wise, honestly, when you're going to college, did you feel, just asking, I don't know, in that situation, did you feel any kind of pressure, or what was that like, for you being a kid around, almost, let's be honest, NBA-like atmosphere, especially in a big city like Houston?
I feel like, I tell a lot of people all the time, when I got to Houston, I felt like I was in the pros. Because just, the way the city, it is, about the game of basketball. So, I got a chance to play against the pros once. If I wasn't playing, at the school, I was playing with the pros. And then, I got a chance to hang out, with the guys, in the evening and stuff. So we go to the Roxy on Wednesdays, and I'm walking in with the pros. Like, I ain't got to do nothing. So when I was in Houston, I felt like I was a pro. And Clyde said one thing after my first year. I had a great first year at Houston, and he was like, don't feel like you owe me anything. You don't have to stay if you don't want to. And when he said that to me, I looked at him like, what do you mean? What do you mean? Of course I'm staying. Because for me, it was like a no-brainer because, the way it felt, I didn't feel like it was time to leave, and even though I did, looking back at it, guys leave after having years like that. And that was probably my best year to leave after that, knowing that they really didn't look at seniors like they did and things like that. Mm-hmm. So me still being an underclassman and putting up those kind of numbers, I probably should have left. But for me, man, it was just, I was getting so much knowledge, from other things, from these guys and stuff, man. For me, it didn't feel like I was ready. It wasn't even a question, was I going to turn pro? I was like, true, coach, we're doing this again. And so, and it did. And for me, I didn't have a bad year. We had a bad year as a team that next year, but I didn't have a bad year. And for me, I don't have any regrets, I see Clyde every weekend for the Big Three and stuff. So, we talk about it. And, it's just so crazy that, Gary Payton just got his job with the university. And it just so happened I'm talking to Clyde here, and Gary Payton walks up here, and they're kind of talking about recruiting now and things like that. And then Clyde, I just happened to be standing there, and Clyde was, mentioning Gary Payton about how I was his first recruit. And then he kind of went down the whole story of how I got there and things like that. And so, it was great for me to hear. He took about 8 minutes out of his time to explain and talk about me to Gary Payton. While Gary looking at you, like he look at you and stuff, man. So like for me, it was a good feeling, just that he took the time and stuff. So yeah, man. So it was cool, man. I'm still learning from these guys now.
Right. Now, can you talk about You had a very successful, career at Houston. What was the moment and what was the transition like for you when you went pro? You had a very successful, professional career. What was that like after your senior year? And when did you, start to think about maybe I can play at a professional level? What was that like for you?
I was ready. I was ready. Once I became a senior, I was ready to turn pro. My mindset, I don't think was really ready for just what the pros had to offer. I don't think most guys aren't. And when you say pro, I was just thinking like, man, I'm going to the league. And when you turn pro, it could be you could end up anywhere and around the world. And so for me is, I didn't get drafted. And so, for me it was disappointing, but at the same time it was like, all right, let's just get back at it. And so, the Grizzlies brought me in. It was not a great, it wasn't a situation for me, but it was a situation for me to, to do something and show what I could do. And so they brought me in for the summer league, and I did the summer league with them. And then I had a great offer to go to Turkey. It was probably about, I think it was probably about $100,000, coming out of college, no tax free,
Exactly.
them willing to, take care, if I had a family. I didn't have a family at the time, but, they're willing to put them in school, they're willing to do the works. And at that time, my mind wasn't right to do it. And so, I wanted to really, I wanted to go to the NBA. And so that was my mind. I wanted to follow my dad's footsteps. And I found out that it was a lot more difficult than I thought it was going to be. And, I did the G League, it was the D League at the time, because they started the D League. And, I was disappointed, man. I got invited, and what happened was, I don't know, Sean. I don't know if you was around, man. We all got invited. I don't know if they invited you, but they invited, little Kareem, downtown Freddie Brown's son, Slick Watt's son,
They had
little Calvin Murphy,
Terry Cummings' son. Yeah.
Oh man, they invited us all down to Atlanta because this was the inaugural season of the D League. Man, they had us all in, and a lot of guys I haven't even met. So it was cool. I ain't met little Kareem and stuff. He looked like his dad. His hair was all the way out here and stuff. But, and man, very smart dude, man. And so I got a chance to meet the other guys and stuff that I didn't meet. And so that was a real cool experience. But then, they had us do the inside stuff. Remember, they had NBA inside stuff.
Right.
And stuff. So they had us do the inside stuff. And, they had us all in the room. And, it was nice how they did it. And then, afterwards, they had us in the room. They made an announcement. They said, if we call your name, please stand up. And so, they started naming guys, and they was just going down on the list. And, they started naming their name, and I heard my name. And then a couple names later, I heard little Calvin Murphy's name. And so little Calvin looked at me and was like, and I was like, and so he was like, man, I heard your name, G, and I heard my name with you. So I said, man, I just knew I was in there. And he called all the sons and a couple other guys. And he said, all you guys stand up. The buses are waiting outside. They're going to take you to the hotel room. You can pack your stuff, and we're going to take you to the airport. And I couldn't believe what I was hearing. And I was like, what? And then, and then the guys who didn't get their names called was like, oh my goodness. It's like everybody was in shock. And so it took a while to clear the room because everybody didn't really understand what was going on until we walked outside and seen them buses.
Right.
So we really didn't get to play. We really didn't show what we had to do. Yeah. So that left a really, really bad taste in my mouth. And, the guys, when I always, went to Houston to play a lot. You had Nick Van and all the Sam Cassell and all those guys was telling me, man, just get in the G League. Just get in the D League, man. And man, you're going to be in here. And I was like, no, I'm not doing that again. And, and for me, right. It felt like, I was used. And it felt like we were used. or misused. So like, for me, I don't mind you using me, but just don't misuse us. And
Exactly.
and they didn't give us a fair shot. And so for me, it just kind of left bad taste in my mouth. So I was kind of ready to, try to, spread my wings out and move around. So I did. My first job, I ended up being in Detroit, and when the ABA started back. So so they started the ABA, and I was in Detroit. At that time, it was a decent league. I think it had about 8 teams, but it had some guys that ended up going to the NBA from there. It was almost like a call-up league at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was competitive. The money was good actually at the time. I ended up probably getting about 90,000 for the year, and so it was decent money. I stayed in downtown Detroit. My parents, my whole family's from Detroit, so that first month I got there, it was interesting. Because you see all the family members come out. All the guys who were trying out for the team, and I had a target on my back. And so, like, my biggest thing when I turned pro, Sean, was that they felt like, oh, you little G, man, you're going to be all right. And so I got picked over a lot of times because, they figure out, man, you're going to be all right anyway. I'm going to take this guy. Even though this guy didn't work as hard as I did. Yeah. But circumstances and things like that. So as I got older, that was really kind of used against me. As far as, oh man, you little G, you little ice, man, you gonna be all right. Mm-hmm. And so, like, for me, that really drove me crazy, as far as just me wanting to prove myself. And so, so I started kind of, after that, I went to Brazil and went to Venezuela and went to Mexico and started just kind of traveling around and things. And then I had a friend that already went over to Europe and started playing and stuff. And I really wasn't on the fence about going to Europe yet. Mm-hmm. And I went over to visit him just to go watch some games and stuff. And, when I was younger, my dad played 2 years in Europe. And so, and he brought us over. And so when I got there, man, that feeling got back, that, where the crowd was roaring and, you see cigarette smoke and clouds of smoke, and they over there letting off cannons and things like that. So once I got there and was like, man, I forgot how cool this was. So,
Hold on, G.
Maybe I'll do it. Huh?
I don't mean to cut you off. I got to tell you this quick story. So, I'm down here in West Palm.
Uh-huh.
I'm helping Dad and my Gray with the camp. Michael Ray was literally telling us the story of when he was in Greece. He played in Italy and they went on the road in Greece, and how crazy it was to where the fans would literally, during a timeout, take firecrackers and throw it on the court.
Flares and stuff.
I was like, wow.
Yes. And yes, it was like that, man. And so me watching that stuff, I was like, man, I forgot about this, And so, I decided, man, like maybe it's, wouldn't be a bad idea to come to Europe. And so I came to Europe when I went to like a camp in Italy, and so it was like a camp, and they had a bunch of guys, a bunch of free agents. And so my agent told me to go there, and it was actually I was in Europe already, and I had been there for like 2 weeks, and I was just traveling around Europe with my boy. And my agent calls me and was like, man, you have to be in Italy tomorrow. And I'm in Amsterdam. And I'm like, what? You have to be in Italy tomorrow. So we took a train and overnight and went to Italy and got there. I signed in. I looked around, it had players from everywhere, all walks of life, man. It was so interesting, because when I got there, they had the pool area. And so, you get in the pool area, you see all the different people from different countries, Americans, not in water course, they over there sitting on the side and stuff. And then you had the Israeli guys playing tag and, grabbing each other in the pool and with Speedos on. So, you got everybody looking like, man, what do they do? That's their culture. So, so it was just kind of cool to see, man, when I got out there. I was like, man, this is Europe. Yes, this is it. And so my first deal was I went to Sweden. And when I was at the camp, my coach that was at the camp ended up being my coach in Sweden. And so he asked me to come to Sweden. I was like, I didn't think they play basketball in Sweden. And so that was my response to him and stuff. And then, I was kind of waiting on better deals and stuff. And then he called back again. And I was like, man, it's getting late. I don't know. Should I? And then my agent was like, just go see. So I went over. I flew over to Sweden, got there. And it was pretty much like I expected it to be at first, I thought. So, things started off slow. We were moving on vans and stuff, man, but I didn't know it was like preseason and it was early in the year. Coach brought me in early. And so I got a chance to, kind of get there, get my feet wet and stuff like that. Didn't think I was going to really stay there until we played our first game. And then we played our first game and it was a guy named Thomas Jackson. He went to Butler. And me and him good friends now. And I squared up against him the first game, and man, that brother didn't miss a shot, man. That brother, I think he had about 29 that game. I think he had 29. I had like 27, but we ended up winning. But I was like, okay, so they got some guys that can play over here. And so, I kind of changed my perspective. And then once the season went on, they did have some guys that can play, and they were out there and stuff. So it became a kind of a challenging year, for me. But I had something to prove because I just came off a year with the Harlem Globetrotters, and so I was fresh out of 1 year being a showman, and it was cool being a showman. But for me, I wanted to go at it, and so. So when I got to Sweden, I was already had in my mind that I had something to prove. And so I got there. I ended up getting player of the year. They gave me Eurobasket player of the year out there. They gave me artist of the year. I didn't even know what that was. And then they gave me like 3 or 4 awards. And then check this out. So season over, I get a call from Orlando. All right. Johnny Davis got the coach's job. So I'm like, oh, okay, I'm back. All right. Mm-hmm. All right. I'm getting ready to leave from Sweden on Monday. This is Saturday. And so we just lost that Friday in the final. And so we lost the final, but it was, we had a good season and things. And so, we hung out at the club and all that stuff the night before. And, it was a drunk guy in there and he ended up pushing me. And then there was an altercation. And so what happened was after the altercation happened, they took me to jail. They locked me up and just questioned me. Didn't press any charges. They asked what happened. They said, it was your name that was said, of course, that wasn't anything new. And then they released me. And then next day, Eurobasket, full blown, Gervin in trouble with the law. And so Johnny Davis calls. I'm sorry, young G.
Wow.
Too much heat. You know what I'm saying? Another disappointment. And so, I got back home, got that call. It was really, really hurtful. It was a situation I really couldn't control at that time. So, it's just what it was. And so, I had to continue my journey. So I continued on, went to Cyprus, and then I ended up going to, different places. I went to Qatar, went to Lebanon, came back to Sweden. And so what happened was ended up when I came back to Sweden, I was in a town called Norrköping, and this town is basketball fans. Sweden is not big in basketball, but this town loved basketball, and they love some G. And so, just when I came back that time, man, just the way they greeted me back, man, was really cool. My dad finally came over, and he was saying like, it was crazy. I heard him telling somebody else, he's crazy, man. I went over there, and they call me G's dad. You know what I'm saying? Because, everywhere I know him, Little Ice, and, I'm knowing, that's your son, huh? He said, man, I keep hearing, so you're G's dad, huh? And he said, man, and for me, that was the greatest feeling in the world. You know, I felt like, you know, I did make a name for myself. And so, you know, I felt like, you know, that's what I wanted to do. You know, that was the goal of it, man, to go off and kind of make a name myself. Because I felt like once I turned pro, you know, guys were passing up on me and the club passed on me because of just, you know, simply my name. You know, someone didn't even taking a look at me. Even though the numbers that I put, Clyde was screaming to the world, like, are y'all crazy? But, you know, it just didn't happen that way. So for me, looking back at it, and, you know, probably was the best thing to happen. You know, me and my mom talk about it all the time. My dad, he said, a couple times the Lakers was trying to pick me up and get me out there. And just think, you could have been out there in LA and acting like one of them. And so my dad reminds me of that all the times. But you know, I got a chance to get a global education, and you know, and I got a chance to, you know, I met my wife in Sweden. So my wife is Swedish, and now I have 3 girls, and you know, that speak 3 languages already, and they're only 6, 4, and 9 months. And so for me, looking, you know, that journey that I took was necessary, you know, for me and you know, and just my growth. You know, I don't know what I would have did if I would have been in the league. Hell, I might have would have had 10 babies. I don't know. You know, you never know. You know what I'm saying? So,
right.
You know, so for me, it was just, that was the route it was meant for me to take. And I have no regrets. I have friends all over the world now. I have connections to people all over the world, you know, that I've known. You know, I used to joke with Tim Duncan and them all the time. It's like, man, you been to so-and-so? I name a place and he'll be like, no. And I'd be like, man, y'all, I can't believe, man, y'all got all this money. Y'all got all this access, but y'all don't go nowhere. And I remember when I'll just be naming places. I come home in the summer and, you know, we used to play paintball a lot with me and Tim and the guys and stuff. And I would just, you know, I just came from a few places. I just wanted to know, you know, Coach, of course, Tony been places, but, you know, the rest of the guys really wasn't going nowhere. And so for me, that was big for me because I felt like I was doing something that, you know, others weren't doing. And so,
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And I think, you know, my daughters are both dual nationals because my ex-husband is French. So they're citizens of France and citizens of the U.S. And there's a different feeling. My daughter right now, she's in Europe and she's done 57 countries. And the reason why I say that, your kids, they have the mind of the world.
Yes.
When you travel and look at America from outside and you see how countries who live right next to each other, completely different cultures, get along, it's a kind of like, so we're all the same kind of culture. We're all Americans and we're still battling, where you can have countries that are completely different languages right next to their neighbors.
Culture, different walks of life.
And they're back and forth. You know, I used to go to Europe every summer when I was in college, and it was just my background being from the Caribbean. The world, we have a small planet, and the world is even smaller.
Yeah.
Be able to just, you know, connect. And it's great and the other point I want to bring up, I love what you said. When you're a legend's son, they think that's the greatest thing. Not saying there's nothing wrong with your dad, but it's even harder.
Yes.
Because that comment, you're going to be all right. What do you mean I'm going to be all right?
Exactly. You know? What do you mean?
What do you mean I'm going to be all right? You know, I'm giving you my job interview here. I met all the credentials. I seeded it, but you're going to give the other guy who's, you know, 2 levels down from me because you're going to be all right.
Strength in Motion. You know, you're a founder of Strength in Motion. You had a very successful career in Europe. In your professional career, after you were playing, you went right into coaching. What was kind of like the idea of Strength in Motion? And like I said, you guys have been very successful nationally, internationally. What was that motivation for you to start that after you finished your playing career?
Definitely. You know, my mom, you know, like you said, she was big on my education. So like when I was in high school, they diagnosed me with dyslexia. And so for me, it was, I had a tougher time in classroom settings, just kind of keeping up and things. And so for me, my mom, she went to war for me. My mom actually took on the Supreme Court.
Good.
A lot of people don't know that and won. And just to fight for my rights as a student in school, it was really phenomenal just looking back at it. But she took on the Supreme Court and won. And I always tell my mom she should have been a lawyer, but she just chose not to be. But she was big on that. And so what happened was we started with camps. So we were bringing kids, and we were bringing kids from Europe because we had European ties. And then I had my partner who was coaching in Luxembourg for 7 years, and so we had a couple of European ties already through me playing and things. And so we wanted to do something international. So what we did was we started the George Gervin experience in 2013, I would say. Yeah, 2013. We started George Gervin experience. And, we just wanted to, we brought kids in, we took them to Six Flags, of course. We took them to, do the water park and things, but we worked them. We got them up early in the morning, 5, 6 in the morning. We had them over here. We got them working. And then we had AAU teams come in and play in the afternoons after lunch. And so it kind of caught on after about 3 years where we had teams calling us and, hey, you having your camp? Can I bring my team to come over and play you guys? And so we had plenty of teams to play. And then it kind of spread in Europe too. And so I ended up moving back to Sweden because I got married. And then, and so we would just come home and we would do the experience. And it was growing so much. We had so many kids, and it got to be where we was having 90, 100 kids and things, which was great. And then we had enough coaches. So it was real manageable. We have 3 gyms. So it was real manageable. And, but for us, man, we just kind of felt like we wanted to go a step further. It wasn't enough. George Gervin experience was only 2 weeks. So, some of these guys needed more. Some of these guys, when they're in Europe, once you, Sean, once you're in Europe, man, there's no college. There's no in between high school and the pros. So there's no gap year. So if you ain't ready to turn pro after high school, then you kind of fall into those little leagues and things, and which their parents would tell them end up go get a job, basically. And so I wanted to kind of fix that and try to find a way to give some of these European kids, at least an extra 4 years.
Yeah.
If they wasn't going to turn, because most of them wasn't going to turn pro, but at least you get 4 years, you get an education, you get a chance to maybe meet your wife, you might expand your network and things like that. So what we wanted to do is we wanted to kind of do it year round, and we felt like it was time for you year round. After we did about 5 years of experience, my partner Mark Reed, the coach now, and he was like, man, I think it's time for us to do a prep. And I was still kind of, you think, and he went to another prep for a year just to see how it was done. And, he really didn't like it, but he really wanted to just kind of see from the inside how it was done. So he went to Oklahoma and went there for a year, man. I commend him for just getting the blueprint. And he did. After 1 year, he was like, all right, we're ready. And so I kind of followed his lead on the prep part. And we're 5 years in. We've gotten over 100 kids in the schools since we've started the experience. And then with the help with the academy and stuff, we've been just about almost reaching 100 of getting kids into school. It might not be scholarship. They might have to pay for books. A lot of them, and then, a lot of these coaches are looking for good kids. They're looking for kids that ain't going to be stealing out the stove. They're looking for kids that they can depend on, that they know that's going to wake up in the morning and be, where they're supposed to be. And so that's how we tell some of these kids how they can be able to get in there, as far as some of the things that they do that the other kids don't do, and a lot of the American kids don't do. And so we just wanted to kind of mix our domestic kids, meaning kids from the U.S. with some of the European kids, and they've developed relationships of their own. These kids have international homeboys and homegirls now and stuff, which is super cool to me because I didn't when I was. I didn't have no kids on the other side of the world, and so these kids have been going over there and visiting. Some parents got some real serious money over there and been taking some of the kids over and showing them the world and stuff. And my one of the coaches here, they took his son over to Poland and showed him a great time over in Poland and stuff. And he probably even heard of Poland before he left. And so that's the biggest thing. The biggest part that we have really enjoyed is just seeing that that development of those relationships. So that's the only those relationships are. Yeah. Those alone was what is great to us. And then they're getting scholarships and they're getting opportunities to play some extra years. And so my dad's been a real big supporter of what we do. We've been having Tobias Harris has been a real big supporter of what we've been doing. And so we're just trying to kind of grow it and trying to get these guys, extra opportunities. And for us, we don't want to work. And so if I'm gonna be honest, so like if I can help some guys and get to reach their journey and call it a job and call it an occupation,
there you go.
Yes, indeed. So it's worked both ways. Things are going great. We're growing. We had one of our big kids he was from Mexico, and he signed with New Mexico State this year. And this is a kid that nobody knew. And so that's for us. That's our goal is a lot of diamonds in the rough.
There's a lot of kids there.
all the kids with the hype and stuff, man. We rather have those diamonds in the rough kids and those kids that that were counted out. Those kids that didn't really play on their high school team because they were overshadowed by guys and things like that. And so that's kind of what we're doing. And the value of what we've been doing has gone up since the NCAA has changed rules. And there's so much competition out there right now.
Exactly.
And so, with the transfer portal, man, these major schools aren't really looking at high school kids anymore. And so they're begging us and asking us to help develop these kids to have them ready. These coaches ain't got no time to develop. And so for us, that's right up our alley. And so that for us, we're not about wins and losses. We have a really tough schedule that these guys play. They play over 45 games, and we play just about every junior college in Texas. We don't keep track of a record. We don't. Our thing is strictly developing. We've got an agreement from these college coaches that these junior colleges that'll play us, and they don't play many. They don't play many preps, and so. We've got full confidence in a lot of these coaches. They've been taking a look at our guys. And so we've been developing some really good relationships with a lot of these coaches just starting this prep. And so, a lot of guys you played against, you play with and things you come in contact with. But, at the end of the day, man, you use those connections to try to help these kids and try to get them in a place where, they can get them extra years in, they can get that education. And then get that experience.
Right.
They're never really going to, if once stuff starts moving up, they ain't going to be around or you ain't going to be around. And so somebody's going to fade. So, I try to let these kids know it's a lonely journey. So you got to be mentally prepared for that part. And so that's why it's really important, that club play and stuff is, it doesn't really help them. As far as getting them ready to be able to adapt to different situations and stuff. So I always try to tell these guys, and that's why we mix a lot of things up in the summer and, mix matching teams, and put players together that might be point guards on their own team, but how you going to coexist and things like that. And so, our first thing is, we let them know it's a lonely journey. And then also, to that, if just because you don't make the pros, and basketball wise, I know plenty of athletes that love basketball, came up playing basketball, but ended up being a Nike shoe rep or ended up being working for Jordan, and things like that, or being an agent and things like that, that's still tied to the game,
Right.
But, and now they're giving shoes to their favorite players and things like that. And so, I have a lot of conversation with those guys and stuff, and it's just really relieving to hear those guys and their story because they loved it just like I did. But, maybe they just couldn't play but they just went a step further and was like, well, I still want to be a part of this game. Right. And they become, shoe reps and things like that. And, just like you said, Sharon. So, we try to encourage them, to stay with it and things like that. And, you can become a coach, you can become a trainer, and you can even become one of our assistant coaches. And so we bring a lot of our players back and, they, basically intern, help out, or, we might have them, talk to some of these young guys that have been here. And so, we love to bring our guys back and just to send that message.
Right.
And that kind of ties in definitely what Sean and I have been doing, saying beyond the court, is that if you can make a difference with one kid or just give them an opportunity and let them know that you may not play the sport, but you can actually get yourself in a good education and be a part of the sport, whether it's a trainer or something,
Exactly.
Well, somebody said the NBA is a corporation. They hire different things, but you need your education to get your foot in the door.
Exactly. That's true.
Right.
100%.
You mentioned before, the journey that you got to this point, and as well as strength and motion, your basketball career. You're now involved with the Big Three, with Ice Cube. That league has just blown up over the last couple years. What is that like for you, to be, on the national stage, with all the Hall of Fame coaches, all the, Hall of Fame, Allen Iverson, the Hall of Fame players and all-stars and all of that. Is it almost like, sometimes I think about it, is that almost like you being in the league, being all that knowledge and all those former players and you being on the bench? What's that like for you right now, being a part of, Ice Cube's Big Three?
Oh man, it's great. Cause Ice Cube bringing all walks of life, he's bringing in all walks of life. So, it's just not just the basketball players, it's the entertainers. It's just, and everybody that kind of comes with it, his whole production. And so, for me, man, it's just great because I'm, like you said, I'm soaking up all the knowledge. I can have a conversation with Gary Payton, and then I can go and have a conversation with with Cube, and it was funny when I met Ice Cube the first time a couple years ago. My dad introduced me. He was like, Cube, this is my son. And Cube looked at me, and growing up, I was known as Ice Cube. So he was like, so you're the original, huh? And and so he shook my hand. He was like, "So you the original?" And I was like, "Well, yeah, I guess I am, man." But it's cool. I enjoy it, man. They've done a great thing, man. They Cube's got a good thing going on, man, and giving these guys a shot, man, and getting these guys to go out and perform in front of the crowd, man. It's in the summer where a lot of the stuff in the NBA ain't going on except the summer league. And so I go out to eat with Dr. J and Clyde and them guys and stuff. So, and of course, Pops. And so those are the things that I relish, going on these trips and just hanging out with the greatness and, having dinner, man. They know all the top restaurants in town. So, we eat good, and then I get a chance to sit up and soak it all in. And so that's the best part. And then, the biggest part is I get a chance to hang out with my dad. So, me and Pops get a chance to hang.
Now, we always ask our guests, on Beyond the Court, it could be off the court, on the court. What does being an American baller mean to George G. Gervin Jr.?
It means everything to me. For me, it's, being an American baller, man, got me an opportunity to see the world and learn a lot of things. And to be American baller got me to, I've attended Syrian and weddings and Turkish weddings and these type of things, which is something I never, ever, ever do. And things that I've been a part of real unique situations and things, people's baptisms, and been invited to people, of totally different cultures where I'm the only brother in there and stuff like that. And so, for me, that's big. And for me, that's special because, I know a lot of folks don't get an opportunity to do it. A lot of guys are just scared to get out of their comfort zone to do it, because I encourage all my boys. I encourage everybody to do that kind of stuff because, that's where you get your education from, and that's where you learn how to be compassionate, and learn how to, deal with other people that live a totally different life than you, but keep it so simple and things like that. And so I've just learned so much, by having the opportunity to be an American baller, and and I'm still learning, and I'm still in continuing my journey, and so it's to be continued.
Right.
Yes. Well said.
Right. Well, hey, I know you, like I said, appreciate you again, man. I know you got a very hectic and busy schedule since you've been back in the States, man. But always, I really appreciate you taking the time out to be with us on the show. Where can people find more information about Strength in Motion International and what you got going on?
Well, you can find us at strengthinmotion.com. Or you can go sinmotion.com, and you can go follow us on Instagram at Strength in Motion International, and you can follow me at Gerv, GEEGERV at Instagram. I do most of my stuff on Instagram, a lot of the stuff that we do, and and kind of I try to keep up to date. I'm not really great with the social media, but I'm working on it. And so, but those are the way you can kind of find us. We're easy to get a hold of. We're real receptive. We've got a lot of things going on this summer. So, if there's some young guys out there that want to be involved, just hit us up.
Great. Well, look, man, I appreciate you again, man. Thank you again for your time. And
thank y'all. Appreciate y'all, man. Appreciate you, Sean. Appreciate you sharing. That pleasure meeting you.
Pleasure meeting you, and stay safe, okay?
All right, y'all. Take care.
Hug up on some of those your beautiful daughters, you girl dad, you.
Appreciate it. Appreciate it.
All right, G.
All right, y'all. Take care.
All right,
Sean.
Later.